Hello guys, this is Naruto-kun and we are back with our new fanfic, which is What If Elders Choose Naruto their 5th homage after Hiruzen Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfiction. In the council chambers. So, that's it, huh? Naruto said quietly as Itachi nodded his head. Naruto sat back in his chair at the head of the council table and rubbed his temples. It couldn't have been drugs. It couldn't have been money. It couldn't have been him just plain going insane like they were told. No, it had to be that his clan wanted to revolt against the village. Naruto sighed as he lifted his cold gaze at his three advising elders, who flinched back from never seeing eyes filled with such cold fire in them. Explain, Naruto commanded as Homura stood up. Hokage-sama, they would have demolished any other ninja we had sent. We also needed someone in the clan, to be a spy, and that was completely loyal to the village. Itachi was the only and perfect choice. Homura explained as his fellow two elders nodded. So you ruined the life of one good person, because my predecessor, the third Hokage, allowed the civilian council to control the academy. You ruin Itachi-san's life, because he was willing to kill his family. Are you three morons? Naruto spoke as his anger rose with each question. Everyone flinched back at the sheer rage in his tone. They all looked to him as his eyes glowed red and his features became more feral. He then started taking deep breaths and calmed himself down as he returned to normal. I'll need someone to teach me to control the Kyuubi's power. Anyways, Itachi, you are to be our spy into this Akatsuki. Once you have all the necessary information, you are to report back to me, understood? Naruto said as Itachi nodded. Yes, Hokage-sama, Itachi replied in his monotone voice as Naruto turned back to his council. Nara-san, what do you believe would be best in this situation? I do plan to return Itachi to the village, and I'm sure the people will not take well to that, due to the mistakes of my predecessor. Naruto said as he knew the people, shinobi and civilian alike, would hate Itachi almost as much as the civilians hated him. I think the truth would be best, Hokage-sama, since anything else would just blow up in our face later on, like right now. Shikaku said as he laid his head on the table. Naruto nodded his own head in agreement. He would not lie to his people, not like he was lied to. Itachi, what do you know of this Akatsuki as of now? Inoichi asked as Itachi closed his eyes in thought. Akatsuki is a criminal organization of S-class missing nin and is the most wanted group in the entire shinobi world. Their main goal is to collect all of the tailed beasts for their plan of world domination. Itachi said as the others of the room grew wide-eyed and gasped. Naruto unconsciously let a hand rub his stomach as Jiraiya patted his shoulder. Akatsuki, at any given time, is composed of no more than 10 primary members, all of whom are S-rank criminals. Members always work in teams of 2, with the exception of Zetsu, who functions as the organization's spy, and they make use of their unique skills to the team's advantage. Team members must function very well together, or at least stand each other to accomplish their task even though they have mutual problems with each other. The organization is rarely fully assembled though. Itachi said and then paused briefly to let the information sink in. The members of Akatsuki as of now are, myself, Kisame, Deidara of Iowa, Sasori of the Red Sand, Hidan the Immortal, Kakuzu of the Five Hearts, Conan the Paper Angel, Nagato the Fake Leader, Zetsu the Human Fly Trap, and Madara Uchiha the Real Leader. Itachi said with the others gaping and gasping at the names, especially the last. But how? He should be dead of old age by now. Kaharu said with her mouth agape. She remembered that the man was about 38 when she was born, so that would make him 105 years old right now. I think we should all know that in the ninja world, we are to expect the unexpected. Naruto said sagely as he sat back and rubbed his temples. He really didn't need those kind of worries. If what he read from their bingo book pages was right, then not even Kakashi-sensei could take any of them on now. Maybe with some training. Also, you should know, Hokage-sama, that Madara was the reason for the Kyuubi's attack on the day of your birth. Itachi said with his eyes on Naruto as Naruto's face showed complete shock. Naruto shook his head, leaving those thoughts for another day. Since we're being brutally honest here, and I did promise I wouldn't lie or hide anything from you anymore, Naruto, you should probably know that two of the people he mentioned I trained. Jiraiya said while he scratched his head in embarrassment and gave a cheesy grin as Naruto merely raised an eyebrow. For some reason, I'm not surprised. Just tell us which ones and how long ago. Naruto said as he began massaging his temples again. Damn, this was his first real day on the job and he already had crap to deal with. It was Nagato and Konan, but it was back in the Second Great Shinobi World War. They looked after themselves until I found them. I gave them food and taught them how to use ninjutsu so that they could defend themselves. After 3 years of training, I was happy enough with their progress that I returned to Konoha, leaving them to forge their own future as shinobi. Last I had heard they were dead. Jiraiya said with a completely serious face as Naruto sighed. Alright, here's what we're going to do so far. Itachi, you and Kisame will do whatever it is that you do, but be back here on my call. Also, due to the mental stress Kakashi-sensei is in, no one at our hospital can heal him, so first we need to find a healer, since we can't do much about the other stuff that's been brought to our attention, but I still want information on each and every one in Akatsuki. Naruto said as they nodded and Jiraiya grew a smirk on his face. If it's a healer you need, look no further, cause I know the perfect one. Jiraiya exclaimed as Naruto gazed at him weirdly. And that would be, Naruto said as Jiraiya grinned at him. Tsunade Senju, the Slug Princess, and Slug Sannin of Konoha, Jiraiya exclaimed as he did a goofy dance. But she hasn't been back here in ages. She said she'd never return to this village. Koharu said as Naruto looked at her. I don't give a damn if she has or hasn't, cause she will. Naruto said as he sat up in his chair. Alright then, it's settled, me and Naruto will head out and find Tsunade. Jiraiya said as the council grew wide-eyed. You can't, he's the Hokage now and he needs to stay in the village. Koharu said as Homura and Danzo nodded. I know that, but he's not going to be announced until everything is calm and done with, besides I still need to start his training and it'll be a good time to do so. Jiraiya said with a small smirk as the elders looked to one another. There's something you're not telling us, Jiraiya. Out with it, Homura said sternly as Jiraiya gave him a grin. Nothing gets past you old fossils. There is a way for Naruto to run the village and travel with me. A blood clone would be able to do so. Jiraiya said as Homura and Koharu looked to one another in uncertainty. A blood clone would be able to. The blood clone could also use the shadow clone jutsu and the information from them would even be shared with the real original. He could also keep up with more training that way. Being able to learn and master things, which would normally take years, in a matter of days, he'd even be able to act as a normal ninja with the blood clone doing the normal work of the Hokage. I say we do it. Danzo mused over as he finally decided to go with Jiraiya's plan. The others nodded after hearing him. Alright then, pack your things Naruto, cause after I teach you this jutsu we're out of here tomorrow. Jiraiya said as he disappeared in a plume of smoke. Naruto called a break to the meeting and went to pack his things. He now lived in the Hokage mansion, so he didn't have to far to go to his new mansion from the council chambers. He packed his things and then went back to the meeting once the break was done. Alright everyone, since I'm about to leave the village there are some things we must get straight. While the real me is absent, only elite Chunin and higher will receive missions directly from my clone. Those lower than that rank will receive them from the council, since everyone believes you're giving the missions anyway. Also, I'll be gone for at least 2 weeks, so I appoint Shikaku Nara as head of the council until my return. Danzo, you and Dragon will maintain the route and regular Anbu. Homura and Kaharu, you two shall head the civilian council, since they'll try anything to gain power in my absence, mostly because they are unaware that I was made Hokage. The rest of my orders are to act as you always have, with Konoha's best interest at heart, and right now that is a strong face and kind heart. Naruto said in a commanding voice, yet it was still kind and smooth as he smiled at them. Even Danzo and Hiashi cracked small smiles at him. Then Hiashi remembered something. Hokage-sama, what of the Chunin exams? I'm sure Sarutobi-sama had chosen his picks already from the preliminaries. Hiashi said as he stood to address his young leader. Naruto nodded sagely as that was something he forgot. Yes, and I must agree with those he picked, but I will not announce them now. I will do it when I return, as well as my introduction to the village. Is there anything more? Naruto said as he looked around and no one spoke. He called the end of the meeting as Jiraiya came up to him and they walked out. Danzo and Hiashi watched as the two walked out. He just might be the best Hokage this village has ever seen. Hiashi said with a smile as Danzo nodded. I must admit that at first I was opposed to him, but he seems to have what the others lacked. The very reason I wanted to be Hokage in the first place. He has a kind heart, but a stronger mind and sense of judgment. He doesn't let his heart stop him from taking the actions which need to. I realize now what a fool I've been for still lusting for the title of Hokage. If I had been, I would have waged war with everyone, thinking that would be the only solution. It's thanks to a talk I had with him that allowed me to think. Danzo said as Hiashi looked at him. Danzo was smiling, and that was scary. Oh, and what was it he made you think about? Hiashi asked as Danzo looked toward him. He told me he'd do what needed to be done, even if it cost his heart 100 pains. You see, unlike what people believe, I've always done things for the sake of the village, not simply me. My beliefs differed from those of the former Hokages as I feel that the village should be placed above all else, even one's heart. I didn't hate the previous Hokage's beliefs, but I did think poorly of them. I just preferred to directly eliminate threats through assassination and execution rather than diplomacy and negotiation the others would try, but now, I believe that Naruto has combined the best of both ideals. Putting the village first, but doing it with care. He seems to use his kind heart to help people see his way, but if they don't, he'll deal with them, unlike Hiruzen would have. Hiruzen and the others felt that if things were left alone, they'd work themselves out, but Naruto knows otherwise. He knows that people can be changed for the better, but if they can't, then he knows they don't belong in this world, a world that needs people like him. Danzo explained as Hiashi nodded. He may not have liked Danzo before, but now, maybe he might. That boy really can change people for the better. I just hope it works on Tsunade-sama, Hiashi said as he and Danzo walked out with Danzo nodding to the thought. With Naruto and Jiraiya, alright Naruto, I'll show you the jutsu now. Jiraiya said as they stopped near the front gate. Naruto nodded as he was eager to learn a new jutsu. Now, before I do, I need to let you know about it first. The blood clone is very much like the shadow clone, except it won't dispel until you dismiss it. It will do everything you would do, even your thought process, and it can use jutsu as well. Now I want you to draw blood from your thumb and make the ram hand sign. Focus your chakra as you would for a shadow clone and then go into all the hand signs of a summoning and finish with the shadow clone hand seal. Jiraiya explained as Naruto nodded and did as he was instructed. Ninja art. Blood clone jutsu, Naruto said as a clone popped up next to him in a haze of crimson smoke. Jiraiya looked it over and then punched it into a wall with it forming a crater the shape of its body. Hey, what the hell was that for? The blood clone yelled as he walked out of the crater like it was nothing. Jiraiya looked to Naruto for the answer as Naruto shrugged. I have a high pain tolerance, Naruto said with his shrug. Again, sorry for not being there, kid, Jiraiya said as he knew he added Charka to that punch. He wasn't Tsunade, but that could have laid a Jonin ninja out for a week. Like I said on the way here, it wasn't your fault. You needed to watch Orochimaru and the Akatsuki, Naruto said as he waved off the apology. Jiraiya sighed as Naruto turned to the clone. You know what to do, right? He asked his clone as the clone nodded and jumped to the roofs to get back to the Hokage tower. You ready to head out? Jiraiya asked when the clone was out of sight. Yup, Naruto exclaimed with a smile. He was always excited to get out of the village. Plus he would finally be able to get some real training done. The duo of master and apprentice disembarked from the village. Their goal? Find Tsunade Senju and bring her back to the village. With the genin at Training Ground 7, later. Hey, guys, did you know that Naruto left with that old guy Jiraiya a little while ago to go find some Tsunade person? Kiba asked as he reached the spot the others were. The only one who didn't look surprised was Shino. Then again, you could never really tell the expression on Shino's face, or tell how he was feeling, as he always sounded the same. Hinata fidgeted nervously as her face went red, but they all ignored it. Sasuke gave a snort as he didn't care and Sakura followed his every action. Really? Ino asked nervously as she had long since stopped being a Sasuke fangirl. After she heard what Naruto had done to protect his friends, it opened her eyes to the truth about a lot of things. Yeah, I heard on the way here that they left a little while ago. It doesn't matter to me, but I thought his team might wanna know. Kiba replied with a shrug as Sasuke snorted again. I don't care what he does, so long as he's not here to get in my way. Sasuke said as he leaned against a tree. Yeah, that idiot is probably going away cause he tried to be cooler than Sasuke-kun when the Sand and Sound invaded. We all know Sasuke-kun was the one to beat that demon Gaara. No one gets in Sasuke-kun's way. Sakura exclaimed as Sasuke simply took the credit for the fight when people asked about it. No one would believe the dope would actually win a fight. Why not take some Anbu or Hyuga then too? Shikamaru asked as he, along with Hinata and Shino, knew who Tsunade was. Because Jiraiya was only allowing one person along with him, so he chose Naruto. Don't know why, but he must wanna to teach the dope how to eat something other than ramen. Right, Hinata, Kiba said as he nudged her. She gave him a scary look and he backed away slowly. He turned to Shino, who took a sip of the drink he had brought. Shino didn't say anything, but he and Shikamaru knew something was going on with Naruto. Makes sense. The dope probably can't even spell ramen, Sasuke replied with a smirk as Sakura had hearts in her eyes, but no one else but Kiba paid attention. Do you think there's anything going on between those two? Choji asked Shikamaru as they both noticed Hinata's spike in Charka as she tried to suppress her anger. Who? Naruto and Hinata? Sakura asked as she had overheard them. Hinata, Ed, and went red-faced as she pressed her fingers together as she tried hard not to faint from what she had heard earlier that day. What would make you think Hinata would love a baka like that? Hinata's a Hyuga clan heir and Naruto's a baka street urchin. She would never like him, he's trash. Sakura exclaimed as everyone, but Hinata and Ino, sighed at her, even Sasuke. They all knew Hinata had loved Naruto for a long time and Sakura was more oblivious than Naruto to that fact. Hinata and, surprisingly Ino, growled lowly at her for talking about their man. Wait. Ino backtracked, our man. Since when did that happen? I mean Naruto's cute, kind, sweet, goofy, exciting, okay, it's official, I just started falling in love with Naruto. I mean, he is a great guy after all, but I couldn't do that to Hinata. I couldn't just steal her man, Even if I did want him now, I'll just tell Hinata how I feel, and see what happens. I'm sure Hinata could help me and I could help her, but I'll tell her later. Ino thought as she looked at Hinata and then sighed as she resolved herself to do what needed to be done. Shikamaru and Shino, of course, were silent on the matter. The two knew Naruto and Hinata had, at the least, some kind of relationship by the way Hinata was acted, but they weren't going to tell anyone. Shikamaru was just too lazy to do it, as it would cause him a good amount of grief. And Shino, well, he just didn't talk a lot. Although when they saw how Ino was acting they had raised eyebrows as they knew Naruto was gonna be one unlucky bastard if those two had a cat fight while he was gone. Itachi just stood on top of the tree across the clearing as he had been watching his brother. He wondered how often his brother smiled or laughed these days, but he could plainly see he didn't. Itachi frowned and narrowed his eyes at Sasuke as he knew his brother took the road he didn't want him to. Damn it, Sasuke, why aren't you what I expected you to be? You were supposed to hate me, and try not to be like me. You were supposed to want nothing to do with power, and only want to live, to find love, to kill me and be done with it. Why can't you see that, foolish little brother? Itachi said as Kisame blurred next to him. Time to go catch up with Hokage-sama and Jiraiya-sama. They need the info I have on Madara. Kisame said as he stole a glance at the group of genin. He wondered how long it had been since he and Zabuza had been like that, except those kids were normal. I thought you said you weren't helping them. You said you'd never betray your Mizukage. Itachi said in his normal monotone voice as he continued to stare at his little brother. I did, but then I learned of what Madara did to Naruto-sama. It's kinda like my childhood, and I'd be damned if I don't follow the kid. He took that kind of pain way better than I ever did, and he came out still kind and happy. I think I want to see how he does it. After my interrogation, Ibiki told me that Naruto has a way of bringing the good out of people. I wanna see him do it to Tsunade-sama. Kisame said with a small smile that Itachi thought he was imagining. Kisame didn't smile. He smirked and grinned, but never smiled. Itachi nodded as he turned from the genin with closed eyes that snapped open to reveal his active Sharingan. Fine, I think I want to see this power as well, Itachi said as he and Kisame blurred from the treetop. Sasuke looked over at the treetop, and could have sworn he saw his brother, but he saw nothing now that he was really looking at it. Maybe it was just his mind playing tricks on him. He then remembered what he had read from the secret Uchiha tablet and he rushed away from the others as he remembered he needed to talk to Kakashi. With Jiraiya and Naruto, they had gotten a good distance from the village and were now in Shukuba town. Jiraiya said he needed to find an informant, so he gave Naruto his belongings, along with the young Kage's inheritance, and told him to get a room for the day. Now Naruto was inside the hotel room he had gotten and was reading the letters left for him by his parents. Naruto, if you are reading this message, then I and your father are dead. We asked the Sandaime Hokage if he would watch over you in case we were never able to. It seems that it has come to that. You may not have had the chance to know me, but I am your mother, Kushina Uzumaki. My baby boy, I want you to know that you are a hero, Naruto. No matter what anyone tells you, it is because of you that Konoha still stands today. I'm quite sure that in our last days your father and I have done what I really did not wish to do. You see, Naruto, you hold the Kyuubi inside of you. I'm sure if you're old enough that you know this by now, so I won't say too much on that. Just know that I probably disagreed with your father seal him inside of you, but I'm sure in the end, it was too late for any other choice. I would have probably also disagreed with the Sarutobi-sama when and if he said that you should never be told of the Kyuubi. I'm sure he didn't tell you, but I'm sure you know by now. I love you, Naruto, and so does your father. We know that you are not the demon and that you never will be. You're our greatest little angel. Now on to serious business. Naruto, our people have a strong bloodline, one that will give you power that many have never seen, but you must learn to control it. It is the power to use all 5 of the elemental charkas, along with yin-yang charka. Once you master it, you'll be able to mix them and create sub-elements like wood style. Only truly gifted Uzumaki awaken our bloodline, and rarely would it have been able to be taught. It is a power which can shake the very countries themselves, as you will also have the Kyuubi increasing that power with his own energies, but you must control it, Naruto, as I'm sure you've noticed your crappy chakra control. There is only one way to gain perfect control over this power, but I can't tell you. You must find the answer on your own. You will know, Naruto, I believe in you. Naruto, I'm going to finish this letter now, I hope you read all of it, I had to write fast. The doctors tell me it won't be long now until you're born, but I had to finish this one last message to you. No matter what happens, Naruto, I know that you will make us proud, whether it's in Konoha or elsewhere. I left a few parting gifts, as did your father, you should find them in the boxes. Good luck, Naruto-kun, I know that you will become the greatest shinobi, and may Hokage if the village is as Minato has always said. Love, Kushina Uzumaki, your mother. Naruto cried as he read his mother's last letter. Now he knew he was always loved by them, now he knew he wasn't what the villagers called him. He found an even greater source of determination now, he would make his mother proud. I did it, Mom, I'm Hokage, but the village is nothing like what Dad hoped it was, I'll make you proud, and that's a promise. Believe it, Naruto said as he returned to reading the last of the scroll, which was from his dad. Hiya, Naruto. Your mother told me we're making like a time capsule or something for you, so I put in my favorite jutsu so you can use them someday. In the scroll it contains instructions for the Hiruzen and the Rasengan, 2 jutsu I'm very well known for. The Rasengan hasn't gotten completed yet, but I know you can finish it if I don't. The 3-prong kunai are used in conjunction with the Hiruzen, but not necessary. You can read more from the scroll. Oh yeah, and whatever you do, Naruto, listen to your motor mouth mother. Also, our clan had a bloodline, so you might inherit it, but I never did. It's called the Daeugan, Great King Ai. My dad had it before he died, so you could have it too. If you don't, then you have the elemental star power of your mother's clan, the Uzumaki. The Daeugan comes at a price, so be sure to read more in the scrolls. See ya later, Naruto. Love, Minato Namikaze, your father, Yondaime Hokage. Naruto cried harder as he realized his father didn't even know what would happen to them all. His mother must have been the only one to think ahead, he sighed as he wiped away his tears and opened the scroll for the Daeugan. The Daeugan is a dujutsu like no other. While many believed it was inferior to the 3 great dujutsu, it was not. In fact, it is far more powerful than they could ever hope to be. This level of power, along with the Daeugan's true abilities, however, is only known within the clan, and so we have let others, including our own village, think less of us. What ours know of the Daeugan's abilities is that it gives perfect sight, much like a great king sees all within his kingdom, but that is all others know of its power. To read the rest you must gain the Daeugan, and that requires a clear mind and the following hand signs. Naruto nodded as he knew exactly what a clear mind meant. He needed to knock himself out after performing the jutsu. He did the hand signs from the scroll and then focused his charka to his center. He felt himself became sleepy and then he fell back to the ground with a thud. In Naruto's mindscape, Naruto awoke to find himself standing in suddenly a sewer he knew was inside of his mind. He followed the sewer down 2 long tunnels and around 2 corners, ending up in a huge room the size of his former apartment building. On the far wall was a cage door that went wall to wall and from the floor to the ceiling. It was very intimidating. The only thing that was holding it closed shut was a seal with the kanji for seal on it. It was then 2 large blood red eyes opened and stared at Naruto with kindness and sorrow. Okay, now he was floored. Kyuubi, was all Naruto could say as the puff ball would be yelling at him or calling him a brat by now, but it looked ready to cry. So my jailer has finally discovered his powers and used the king's rest jutsu to help awaken it and the other. Well, I suppose the mirage is over, and I can show you what lies beyond the mask. Kyuubi said with a sigh as he was engulfed in a tornado of flames. When the flames died away, in Kyuubi's place was a young woman. She had short spiky orange hair and crimson red eyes. She wore a short black shirt robe with green trimmings, dark pants, with black and white belt that she tied in front with mesh armor underneath. You can turn human, and you're a girl? Naruto asked in complete shock since Kyuubi never did that before. Kyuubi just scoffed at him as she stepped between the bars of the cage and laid a hand on Naruto's shoulder, to which shocked Naruto even more. Naruto, if I wanted to I could turn human on the drop of a Ryo coin, but I needed to keep up my mask of aggression and hatred. Do you honestly think I've survived thousands of years being a giant beast of hate and anger? Hell no, I'm smarter than those humans could ever be. That's why as soon as I was sealed into I saw the same power that righteous man had at once. I saw the power of a king in you. Oh yeah, and if I was really bloodthirsty I could have come out at any time and killed you. Kyuubi said with a smile as she patted Naruto's head like a child. Naruto was completely floored by this as he gaped like a fish. He shook himself to regain his composure as he turned serious eyes to Kyuubi. I've felt smarter and calmer than I've ever felt in my life. I feel so serene, and I don't remember ever learning that word. You did that, didn't you? Naruto asked with narrowed eyes as Kyuubi gave him a fox-like grin and a mock bow. But of course, I couldn't have my host be a moronic Hokage, could I? Besides, I was going to do it in a couple of months anyway, so I just started earlier. But, back to the reason you're here. You're here to acquire the power of the Daiyugan. I must warn you that it wouldn't be easy. Thanks are given up to obtain that dujutsu and they know of its true power. If you truly wish to gain this blessed yet cursed power, then follow me. Kyuubi said as she walked out of the room with Naruto close behind. They quickly made it to what seemed like a stone tablet. Naruto was confused as Kyuubi grabbed his hand and placed it on the stone tablet. His body started to glow as he began to slowly fade away. Naruto, don't question things from here on out. Just go with the flow and think before you speak. Also, when you get there and see that man, you'll have to give something up. Be sure to think before you speak, Naruto-kun. Kyuubi said as she kissed his cheek before he completely faded away. In the thought tower, Naruto didn't know why, but he knew this place like the back of his hand. It confused him, but like Kyuubi said, he just needed to go with the flow. He reached the top of the tower, only to see a floating platform to which he walked to. Ah, I see, so you're the next of the Namikaze to come here. What is your name, young one? A voice said smoothly and calmly. Naruto looked up and saw a young man sipping tea and reading a book as he sat lazily in his throne-like chair in the center of the platform. He had short wavy black hair. He wore a black uniform that seemed to be for a school. His purple eyes gazed over Naruto with disinterest, and then, excitement as recognition flashed through them. Ah, so it's finally your turn, Naruto. The man said as Naruto simply nodded, not wanting to seem out of the loop on the subject. Good. Then you must know why you're here and the requirements of it. The young man said as he sat up straight and gave the presence of a true king. Naruto couldn't help but nod as he felt that anything this man told him would lead to peace and posterity. Good. Then allow me to explain who I am. I am Lelouch Namikaze, and I was the first of the Namikaze clan. You see, when I first died, the world was created anew and I was revived in this era. I still had the powers of my old life, so I simply used it. I didn't want anyone trying to steal our power or knowing of it, so I made it to where only select members of the clan had it and only they could use it. After being in this world for about 10 years, I joined my clan with a man named Hashirama and his Senju clan. And well, you know the rest of that story. Lelouch said as he stood and walked over to Naruto with a kind smile playing on his face. Now on to what must be done for you to receive my power. You must give up something that you possess, and once you give it up you can never have it back. Lelouch said with a stone serious face. Naruto placed his chin in his hand as he thought it over. Kyuubi said not to question things, so he wouldn't. Kyuubi said to go with the flow, so he would. Kyuubi also said to think before he spoke, and so he was. Now what could he give up that wouldn't seem stupid but wouldn't impair him? Lelouch stared at him with his smile back in place. If what he thought and knew about his descendant was true, then Naruto would make a better choice than he when he was alive. I'll give you my hatred, Naruto said as Lelouch's smile broadened. He ruffled Naruto's hair as he let out a chuckle of amusement. You've passed my test, Naruto, Lelouch said as Naruto grew a bit confused. You see, the only ones who could hope to have my true power were the ones who would give up a dark trait of theirs. There were others who gave up other things, but only those who would give up their negativity could gain my true blessing, and you just so happened to be the first, Lelouch said, trailing off as he thought about the stupidity of his clan. If only it hadn't skipped Minato, and Naruto was Minato's grandson. So here is my truest blessing, the full potential and power of the Daiyugan, the Kami Daiyugan. Lelouch said as he jabbed two glowing fingers into Naruto's eyes. It didn't hurt his eyes, but his mind was on fire from the sensation. When Lelouch pulled his fingers back, Naruto fainted and fell off the floating platform. Lelouch smiled watching him go down into the inky black darkness of the space. He then went back to his throne and started reading his book again. Waiting another who knows how long for a visitor. Well, at least I have Ika Ika, Lelouch said to himself as he giggled perversely. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto awoke with a bad headache. Kyuubi was over him with a worried expression on her face that turned happy when she saw he was waking up. His eyes fluttered open and she gasped at seeing them. They were a royal blue color as he fluttered them. They glowed slightly as he sat up, keeping them open. You received the blessed eyes of Kami, Kyuubi said more to herself than him. He looked at her as she tried to avert her gaze. Naruto, you must stop those eyes before you use them on me. Just close your eyes and think of your normal ones, she said as he did so with his eyes returning to their cerulean color. Alright, what now? Naruto asked as Kyuubi snapped her fingers and turned into a young man with the same clothes and short red hair. Now it's time for hell, Kit, Kyuubi said as he dragged Naruto to the room they would be training in for the next 3 years, but since it was his mind it would pass in a matter of hours. 3 hours later, outside Naruto's mindscape, Naruto awoke in a cold sweat as he just survived Kyuubi's boot camp of hell and torment. He was far more knowledgeable now, but his mind would never be the same. Kyuubi had trained him in chakra control, some jutsu, and mastering 3 of his 5 chakra affinities, since when being still physical he could still manipulate his chakra the way he wanted to for if he wanted to perform a jutsu. After a year of that, Kyuubi had him studying seals and everything else shinobi. It was a whole another mind year before he could move on to manipulating Kyuubi's chakra. He had finally mastered it when Kyuubi had told him the last thing he wanted to hear. Kyuubi was being drained away. Naruto had converted a large amount of chakra in his training, and now Kyuubi would disappear in a year if he couldn't find a body for Kyuubi to transfer into. It was a good thing that in the first and second years he had discovered some interesting things about his bloodline, the Daiyugan. Now he was face to face with a worried Jiraiya, to who he told everything to. Jiraiya wanted to faint after hearing that tale, but he needed confirmation. So let me get this straight. The Kyuubi, who can be a girl who's in love with you, or a boy who's a drill sergeant? trained you for 3 years in your mind. But before that, you gained the Namikaze bloodline Dujutsu, and the one Minato's father had wasn't even the true full power of it. Also, you're the first to receive its true power because you were willing to give up your hatred for others. Jiraiya said incredulously as Naruto nodded truthfully each time. Jiraiya nodded slowly as he fell back, finally allowing himself to faint. Naruto only looked at him, then shrugged as he got his Dayugan scroll and activated his eyes to read more on the powers his eyes had. Interesting, Naruto said with a fox-like grin as he read the scroll. Yup, tomorrow's training with Jiraiya would be interesting indeed. The next day, Naruto and Jiraiya had gotten up early to train and then moved to the next town in search of Tsunade. That was why they were in Haskin town. Jiraiya said he and Naruto would be collecting some information there. The only problem was, why do I have to stay here? I'm the, now, so why can't I go? Naruto whined as Jiraiya sighed at his actions. I thought you said that you grew smarter. Jiraiya asked as Naruto blinked. I did, but that doesn't mean I'm still not 13, pervy sage. Besides, Q-chan said she likes my childishness. Naruto said with a pout. Well, I don't care for it much. Here, study this jutsu and when I come back I'll see how far you've truly gotten with Kyuubi. If it's good enough, then I'll start teaching you a truly amazing jutsu, the Rasengan. Jiraiya said as he gave Naruto a scroll. Naruto blinked a few times as raised his hand slightly like he was holding a fruit. You mean this? Naruto said as chakra swirled in his hand until it formed a perfect Rasengan. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes as he studied the jutsu. How did you learn this? Jiraiya asked in a serious voice with narrowed eyes. He knew he hadn't even mentioned it to Naruto and the boy knew it already. Jiraiya knew he was supposed to be the only one to know that jutsu besides the boy's father, Minato. I saw it and studied it when you fainted last night. It was in a blood seal scroll from Dad. He had some great tips, hints, and tricks on it too. Naruto said energetically as he formed another in the opposite hand. Jiraiya almost fainted again, but stopped because this time Naruto might learn the Fly Thunder God Jutsu if he did. That year of chakra exercises paid off, don't ya think? Naruto said as he dispelled both Rasengan from his hands. Yeah, well, just study that jutsu, okay. It'll be helpful in future battles, Jiraiya said quickly before he vanished in a plume of smoke. Naruto sighed as he sat down and opened the scroll. Fire style. Small fire stream jutsu. This technique is used as the parent jutsu of almost any fire jutsu used. It was created by Akira Sarutobi and requires no hand seals. Naruto started reading as he sat there in the hotel room. With Itachi and Kisame. We're getting close. I can feel Naruto's chakra from here and it's much stronger and more controlled than the last time we saw him. Itachi said in monotone with Kisame nodded as they strolled into the outskirts of town. Yeah, you're right. It's focused to the point of great chakra control, but it still isn't at mastery yet, although it's definitely more power. I'd say he was at low chunin in both before, but it seems that he just jumped to Sannin level in 2 days. It's almost as if he's been training for years. Oh well, that'll just make it more fun to have a battle against him. Kisame said with a wide shark-like grin showing his shark-like teeth. Itachi nodded as he too wished to test the limits of Naruto's newfound power. Then let's not make haste, Itachi said as he and Kisame took to the roofs and ran toward Naruto was located. With Kakashi. So Naruto went with Jiraiya-sama to find Tsunade-sama to help me. Kakashi said in an extremely weak voice as he lay unmoving in his bed. The only part of him he could move was his eyes and his head a bit, but that wasn't much. In the room with him were some people, mainly Asuma, Guy, and Kurenai, but also Yugao Azuki and Shikaku Nara. That's Naruto-sama, our Hokage-sama, Kakashi-senpai. You of all people should know how to show the proper respect for the Hokage. Yugao said as Kakashi seemed to simply ignore her. She wasn't sure if he hadn't heard or what, but it made her uneasy about him and his loyalties. Anyways, that's everything from the meetings, and so now all of you are filled in, and Kakashi, show Naruto-sama the respect he deserves. After all, he could just have you killed if he wanted, Shikaku said lazily, but smirked as the little color Kakashi had faded. I'm very respectful of Naruto, but that doesn't mean we should let it go to our heads nor his. I mean, he is just a genin after all. He may be Hokage now, but he doesn't have any of the power to back up the title. I'll admit he may have a few good jutsu, but he lacks the intellect and power to be a proper Hokage. At first I was caught in all the hype that my student became Hokage, but he really can't do it. He's the weakest of my team. Now Sasuke on the other hand, he defeated Gaara, the one-tailed Jinchuriki, Kakashi said as he stared at the ceiling. He was oblivious to the anger and shock of the others in the room. They were the ones who really knew of the battle, mainly because Yugao was the one to witness it. So, Kakashi had been fed that crap the civilian council had spread around. Kakashi, do you mind if I go for a smoke? Asuma asked as he nodded to the others that they would deal with it later. They nodded back as Shikaku and Yugao left in a plume of smoke. Asuma sighed as he sat back down. Kakashi finally, and painfully craned his neck over so he could look at them. I thought you were going for a smoke, and where are Shikaku and Yugao? Kakashi asked as Asuma shrugged nonchalantly. I decided against it since my friend's hurt, and I think those two needed to get work done, so they left as fast as they could. Asuma said as Kakashi nodded at the lies. After talking more for a few minutes, Kakashi had fallen asleep and the others were talking amongst themselves. Shish, Guy said as the door opened to reveal Sasuke. Sasuke took a quick glance around the room and frowned as he walked into it. Why is Kakashi asleep and why is this room full of jonin? Sasuke asked, or rather demanded, as if he was entitled to the answers. Guy had to suppress his anger a bit as he answered the boy. Not much, really, Guy said unconvincingly as Sasuke only became enraged at the obvious lie. What are you doing? What in the world is going on here? Sasuke asked heatedly as they only avoided his gaze so they wouldn't be tempted to kill him. He was their new Hokage's friend and so they would kill him just yet. Just then the door burst open and a random special jonin came into the room. Hey, is it true that Itachi has returned? And that he's come here to get Naruto-sama? Sasuke had completely missed the sama part as he was stuck on the fact his brother had been in the village and not dead at his feet. The jonin looked about and his eyes laid on Sasuke. He froze at seeing the last Uchiha. Kurenai called him an idiot as Sasuke ran from the room and toward his brother. He'd kill Itachi this time, and that was a promise. And so this jutsu is to become intertwined and used to prepare for any fire-style jutsu that will be used in the future. Damn, that was long, Naruto said as he moved on to the next jutsu scroll. He read through a few of them and got a pretty good idea of how to do them, plus they were way shorter than that lame-ass fire scroll Jiraiya had given him. Pervy Sage is probably out doing Kami knows what. Why'd he have to make me stay in the room? I still need help with advanced seals and formulas. Naruto said in annoyance at being treated like a child. He was Hokage now, which meant Jiraiya was now his subordinate and had to do what he said. But then again he was the student and Jiraiya was the master. Master of ditching kids to go peek on girls. Damn pervert, Naruto yelled to himself as he continued to read and work with his scrolls. He knew he couldn't act this way when he was around people, or when being Hokage, but he was in a hotel room all alone and Jiraiya had told that while on this search he was the student and Jiraiya was the sensei. With Hiashi, in Konoha. So you see, that is why I asked Naruto to marry you, Hinata. I believe him to be the best male for you and so he is to be your husband when you turn 16 years old. the age of marriage. Besides, I don't want to give up my daughter to some pig for good clan alliances, and by marrying you to your true love I'm being both a good father and clan head. Hiyashi said to Hinata and Hanabi as they had been pestering him about it, mainly Hanabi. Thank you, father, but what of Hanabi? The clan elders will marry her off as well once they see that I'm with Naruto-kun. Hinata said in worry for her younger sister. Do not worry, my daughters, for I have a plan for this as well. When Hanabi reaches of age, Neji will become clan head and she will marry Naruto as well. Since he has 2 clans to revive, he'll need all the help he can get. Besides, I'm sure he will come to love both of you as I had loved your mother when we were wedded. Hiyashi said as his 2 daughters smiled and hugged him tightly. Then Hinata's eyes widened as she remembered what she and Ino had talked about earlier. Father, Ino Yamanaka wanted to be with Naruto-kun as well. If Naruto is truly from 2 clans as you say, then I think she and I can find more girls who I know will love Naruto-kun as much as I do. Do you think he'd mind us doing that, father? Hinata said as Hiyashi thought about it for a moment. I'm sure Naruto wouldn't mind. He doesn't seem like that type of person, and from what he and I spoke about I think he'd trust you and Ino-san's judgment on girls for potential wives. You and Hanabi better get going. There are a lot of girls I'm sure Naruto would be interested in, but only a few in the village which are right for him. Hiyashi said with a chuckle as his daughters left. Ah, Naruto, you lucky bastard, Hiyashi said as his clone came out of hiding and began doing paperwork again while he read Jiraiya's newest book. With Jiraiya peeking in a hot spring. The girls here are amazing. Achoo. Jiraiya said quietly with a perverted giggle and then sneezed softly for the 4th time today. Must be some hot young lady remembering the love of Master Jiraiya. Jiraiya shouted on accident as a bath stone crashed into his face. With Naruto, in the hotel room. That perv just got his ass pounded worse than Orochimaru. Naruto said as he laughed from hearing the girlish scream of his sensei. There was a knock at the door and Naruto answered it only to come face to face with Itachi and Kisame. I thought I told you to stay in the village, and why is he here? Naruto said with a frown on his face as Itachi bowed to him. He has very important information on Madara, Naruto-sama, so I thought it'd be best if you heard it right away. Itachi said as Naruto sighed and ushered them in. Fine. What, got, Kisame-san? Naruto said as he sat on the bed and they pulled up chairs. Well, Naruto-sama, Madara Uchiha is the main reason for your parents not being around. He caused the Kyuubi to escape and then placed it under an extremely powerful genjutsu to do his bidding. Your father, the Yondaime Hokage, defeated him and made him retreat, thus breaking the genjutsu. The Kyuubi continued to attack and ended with it being sealed into you and both your parents dying to keep you safe. Kisame said as Naruto closed his eyes to hide his emotion. Does he have any other crimes to atone for? Naruto asked in monotone to further hide his emotion. Yes, Hokage-sama. In the past he took control of the 4th Mizukage with his Sharingan. I was one of the very few who knew. I was to help him to bring an end to the world of lies, but all it did was make it a much large world indeed, Kisame finished sadly as Itachi picked up. He also helped train me to effectively kill the entire Uchiha clan, started the Mist Civil War, and is the true leader of Akatsuki. He's collecting the Biju so that he can have total control of the world by reflecting his Tsukuyomi off the moon. Itachi said as Naruto grew shocked at the information. He's a monster, Naruto growled out as Itachi and Kisame nodded. Itachi's head snapped toward the door as a frown appeared on his once emotionless face. Sasuke, Itachi and Naruto said as they then turned to one another. We'll talk about that later, but for now, excuse me, Naruto-sama. I need to drill something into my foolish little brother's head, Itachi said as he stood and bowed to Naruto before calmly walking out of the room and shutting the door behind him. Kisame and Naruto looked at the door as they heard the sounds of birds chirping, explosions, grunts, shouts of pain, Itachi talking, more shouts of pain, and then a duck. Yeah, that last one they had no clue what it was. Itachi came back into the room looking a little drained with a beaten and battered Sasuke over his shoulder. Sorry about that, Naruto-sama, where were we? Itachi said as a knock came to the door. It was Might Guy and he looked a bit embarrassed as he looked up in shock to see Itachi there. He saw Sasuke over Itachi's shoulder, and was about to attack until he heard Naruto. Guy, don't. They're my agents, and Sasuke kinda deserved the ass kicking from coming all the way here for something he couldn't achieve. Now take him back to the Konoha hospital. Be sure to get Kakashi there as well. Naruto said sternly as Guy came into the room and bowed to him. Speaking of Kakashi, Naruto-sama, there is something about him that concerns a few of us. Mainly myself, Shikaku-san, Asuma, Kurenai-san and Yugao-san. He seems to believe that you will do a poor job as Hokage and are not fit for the position. He has also stated that Sasuke-san will do a better job at it because he is more talented than you. He also seems to believe it was Sasuke-san who defeated Gaara-san's Biju, but the rest of us know it was you due to some of the Anbu who watched your battle. Guy said as Naruto looked a bit shocked. He had always thought Kakashi believed in him, if not just a little bit. Well, now he knew it always was about Sasuke. Thank you for that information, Guy. Now can you please do as I said before and report this to the Shinobi Council? I'll be back as soon as I can, but I want them to use the route Anbu that Danzo selects for A rank and S rank missions. Tell them to redirect our Anbu to surveillance of the village. That is all. You may be on your way, Guy. Naruto said as Guy bowed once more and took Sasuke to the village. A great tactic. Use the real Anbu for a watchful eye on the village and use Danzo's route to complete hunter and information missions outside the village, therefore showing only half the strength of all the Anbu Corps. Ingenious, Naruto-sama. Itachi commented as Kisame nodded because Mist used to do the same tactic after the Civil War. Thank you, Itachi. Now what is the other reason you're here? I hardly believe that you'd waste time traveling here to tell me something that could have been said once I returned to the village. Naruto said as Itachi's eyebrow twitched for a second, showing his hidden surprise. Well, we did come here for that reason at first, but then, while at the edge of town, we noticed your increase in power, so we wanted to test it. Kisame said with a grin as Naruto smirked at him. Naruto stood up and they followed his lead. Well then, I'll show you the power of the Hokage. Naruto said as they exited the room. They quickly made their way to an empty grass plain. Itachi activated his Sharingan and Kisame took Sharkskin off his back as Naruto raised a brow. Starting things off serious are we? Why? Naruto said as he had planned on them underestimating him and his abilities. We sensed your power increase and the control you have over it. We're not good sensor ninja, but even we can tell that if we don't take this battle seriously, it'll be our last for a while. Itachi said as Kisame nodded with a huge grin. Enough talk, time to fight. Kisame said as he rushed Naruto. Naruto flipped back as he ran through hand signs. Lightning style. Lightning dragon jutsu. A huge dragon made of lightning streaked out of his open palm, utterly decimating the spot Kisame was before he leapt high into the air. Itachi raced through hand signs at a blinding speed before inhaling deeply. Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu. A giant fireball 5x the size the one Sasuke could make raced at Naruto as he barely dodged out of the way. The flames of the edge of the fireball caught his foot as he stumbled to the ground. He held his ankle and foot as he looked at Itachi who pointed upward. Naruto cursed as he quickly bit his thumb and drew blood. He slammed his palm to the ground and a seal matrix appeared where he did. Summoning Jutsu. A large poof of smoke large Kisami's sword slammed into the shield of Gamaken the guardian toad. Gumaken pushed Kisame off his shield and high into the air as Naruto leapt up into the air after him. Gumaken then impaled Itachi with his Sasumata. Itachi merely stood stock still and then busted into Crow, who flew after Naruto. Gumaken sighed as he dispelled from the battle. "Where do you think you're going?" Itachi said once the crows reformed into front of Naruto, who only smirked at seeing the 18-year-old Uchiha. "Nowhere, because I was meant to hold you off," Naruto said as Itachi gave a raised brow. His eyes widened as he drew a kunai at Naruto, who was hit by it and dispelled into smoke, revealing him to be nothing but a clone. Itachi turned around to Kisame to see Naruto behind the shark-like man with his fist cocked back. Itachi, with the use of his Sharingan, noticed that Naruto had used Dancing Shadow Leaf to get behind Kisame and that there was wind chakra infused within the punch that was about to be delivered. "Kisame, watch out! Behind you!" Itachi said as he flashed through hand signs. Kisame turned around, but it was too late as Naruto's fist impacted with Kisame's gut. "Wind style. Tornado fist," Naruto said as he twisted his fist into Kisame's gut and sent the man swirling toward the ground. Kisame flipped over when he was close to the ground and landed softly in a low crouch as he had went through 10 hand signs. Naruto's eyes widened as he could tell what was about to happen. Water style. Great water bullet jutsu. Kisame then fired a large blast of water at Naruto, who was still high in the air as he looked down at the two with wide eyes. Seeing the large water jutsu heading towards him, Naruto did a single one-handed hand seal and brought his index and middle fingers to his lips while taking a deep breath. Fire style. Fire stream jutsu. Naruto called out as he channeled more and more chakra into the jutsu so it would overpower Kisame's water one. He saw that it wasn't working, so he used a bit of Kyuubi's chakra and the flames of the jutsu turned white and red as he increased its power. Fire style. Dragon's Rage Jutsu. Naruto's new jutsu completely bested Kisame's own as it dissolved the chakra-infused water and sped to the two Akatsuki members. Although as soon it did this, Itachi disappeared and reappeared above Naruto and brought a harsh kick down on top of his head, slamming him down into the ground. But when Itachi hit him, he quickly realized that the Naruto he hit wasn't the real Naruto, as when he hit him, Naruto turned into a wooden person, revealing that Naruto had replaced himself with a wood clone. But how? Itachi questioned as he started to look around for the real Naruto, although before he could find him, he suddenly found thousands of water needles surrounding him, where he heard Naruto's voice cry out the name of the technique. Secret Ice Style Jutsu. 1,000 Needles of Death. Upon which the thousands of ice needles surrounded him, all closed him on around him and impaled him, but as soon as they did, Itachi reverted into crows, revealing that he himself was a crow clone. When Itachi reappeared beside, he suddenly turned around to find Naruto behind them with his hands in a clapped position. Kisame turned back and they were both frozen to the spot as they saw Naruto form the one seal they only knew of one Kage ever doing. Water style. Water shockwave. After which water came from the air and formed a vortex around Naruto that overflowed from his position in the form of a crescent wave. Luckily though, for Kisame and Itachi, they were able to jump up into the air in time and avoid being drowned by the waves. Earth style. Mud wall, Itachi said as he spat up mud that formed a giant wall that he and Kisame rested upon. Itachi watched Naruto silently with his Sharingan spinning wildly as he gave the youth a small smile. Kisame, we must stop now. You know that only the Nadaime could use that jutsu and there is no telling how many more powerful jutsu he's learned since we've never truly fought him before. He was even able to use all 5 elements in powerful jutsu and increase their power with his own chakra and Kyuubi. He has also shown jutsu which only the Shodai and Nadaime Hokage have ever been able to use, but they're not exactly to those levels yet. But I'm certain if we continue like this it'll come down to my Sharingan and your sword, which it shouldn't in a spar. Itachi said as he tried to memorize the jutsu with his Sharingan, but he noticed that he couldn't. He wondered why. Yeah, he's really a powerhouse, Itachi. He kept up with us at half power, and he may not be using all his power either. It's like fighting one of the Sannin, 'cause you never know how he'll change the tide of this fight. Kisame said as he ran through hand signs and made the water back into vapor. Itachi dispelled his mud wall as they walked up to a panting and sweating Naruto. You guys win. I'm beat. Those were all the jutsu I knew and I don't wanna use my bloodline on you too. I wanna test that on someone else. But don't worry, once Jiraiya sensei really starts my training and I get the other jutsu I have in the scrolls, I'll be able to keep up with you too. So, how'd I do? Naruto said as he fell to the ground and sat there. Itachi smiled at him while Kisame gaped like a fish. What? You mean we were about to give up, but he's not even in his training yet. Worst of all, he's 13. That means he's stronger than you were at that age, Itachi. We fought him at half power and he's saying Jiraiya-sama hasn't even started his training yet. I can't wait until you're done with it. Kisame shouted in disbelief, but it quickly turned to excitement for the challenge of a powerful Naruto to battle with and against. Itachi only nodded his head as he too felt that surprise and excitement. He didn't like fighting for life or death, but sparring every now and then was relaxing and fun. Well then, I believe this will help you along the way. Itachi said as he reached into his robe and pulled out a small scroll. It read Genjutsu on it and he handed it to Naruto. Thanks Itachi, it means a lot. Naruto said as he smiled up at Itachi. Kisame looked in thought and snapped his fingers as he pulled out an scroll and unrolled it. I was saving this in case I ever had an apprentice, but I'm sure you'll do me proud by wielding it instead, Hokage-sama. Kisame said as he placed his hand over the seal inside the scroll. A poof of smoke later revealed a regular katana, with a simple cross guard, which is a simple open frame, much like a 4-pane window. It has a white-colored hilt and white sheath. I took this off a grass anbu I killed once. I was never able to use it properly, but I feel as though you would. The ninja said it was called Senbon Sakura and that it had a mysterious power that let it rival our blades of the 7 swordsmen of the hidden mist. That was all he told me before he died, but I'm sure you'll learn along the way, Hokage-sama. Kisame said as he handed the katana to Naruto, who was shocked. Thank Kisame, I use it in Itachi's jutsu with reserve and pride. Naruto said with a small bow of respect for the two. We must leave now, Hokage-sama. Pain is calling for all Akatsuki members, but we'll return as soon as we can. Come, Kisame, Itachi said in monotone as he and Kisame disappeared into blurs. Naruto simply shrugged and went back to the hotel room. He studied and tested more jutsu before going to sleep. When Jiraiya got there he saw that Naruto was already asleep, so he simply shrugged and went to sleep as well. He'd start Naruto true training tomorrow.